Namibia and Algeria signed 7 bilateral agreements covering a variety of sectors as part of the inaugural session of the Joint Commission of Cooperation between the two countries. That was already in 2017. Historically, the two countries have enjoyed good ties in both politics and economic cooperation. And we zoom in on that relationship on our program, Diplomatic Communique, that looks at our foreign missions. And this time around, I'm glad to be joined by the ambassador to Algeria, Dr. Panduleni-Kaino Shingenge. Ambassador, thank you so much for making time out to join us.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, if you look at the historical ties between Algeria and Namibia, they share long-standing relations marked by a common struggle of freedom and dignity. Can we perhaps reflect on the beginning of this diplomatic relations between the two countries?
Certainly. We may recall that during the liberation struggle, Algeria was one of the countries that supported us in order for us to gain independence. In fact, they contributed immensely. It was during the era of President Ben Bella, when President Sam Nujoma received some weapons to be used in the fight against the enemy. That went on to translate in political solidarity, because after independence, we have the shared common values that we support each other on the international arena, and especially in areas of peacekeeping and security.
In terms of that, if you look at it, I think not to move away very quickly from the historical perspective, Ahmed Ben Bella, of course, has been instrumental in terms of fighting for human dignity, human rights. He's been a Pan-African alongside Kwame Nkrumah and others. Reflect on the importance of having these figureheads in the different parts of the continent, and of course how that has assisted us in terms of our fight against apartheid.
Ahmed Ben Bella, I would say, is one of the first waves of great presidents we've had on this continent. We had Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. We had many others all over the continent. And these leaders struggled to ensure that the continent is free. And it's from them that we have the fight for liberation and for independence. And after that, we have the second wave of our core leaders that are now fighting for economic independence on the continent. But it was absolutely necessary to have gone through the first stage, at least to get the political independence on the continent.
Well, we're talking about 7 agreements, of course, 7 bilateral cooperation instruments. That is quite a big number, but I'm sure we can perhaps put it in context for the folks that are watching at home. When we're talking about a joint commission of cooperation, what exactly are we referring to in layman terms for Namibians?
When countries cooperate, you need to have legal instruments in place. And to have that, we have a joint commission, meaning that the two countries come together and negotiate what do we want to cooperate in. So in 2017, we signed 7 agreements, following on the first one, which was on political consultation. That was the first one. And of course, the establishment of the diplomatic relations. We then signed 7 agreements, mainly in the field of economy, and also immigration, and also culture and education. In immigration, we have an agreement signed waiving a requirement of visa for the holders of diplomatic and official or service passports. And then we have an agreement on culture, cooperate in cultural activities. That is actually a great way of bringing 2 nations together to participate in cultural activities, whether it's music, it's dance, it's, for example, museum. This year, May, the Africa Museum opened in Algiers, and Namibia was also invited to contribute artifacts and music instruments to that museum. So that's a great way of cooperating.
Yeah, but I think in terms of what you've covered, it's quite comprehensive. And I wanted to take you a step back and perhaps let's start reflecting on I think, if not one of the most important ones, because without peace, political peace and civic participation, we can't enjoy any cultural heritage or agricultural production, etc. Reflecting a little bit on the politics, of course, we know the region has been plagued by the issue around Western Sahara and the others. That political cooperation between the two countries, can you perhaps reflect on what are some of the most important aspects or variables that we're considering as part of that consideration?
Share values with Namibia in terms of wanting colonialism to end wherever it exists in the world. On the continent, we have the issue of Western Sahara that has been not getting enough attention, especially from the United Nations. Yes, we have the resolutions, but it's resolutions after resolutions passed, and there's no implementation. What we want is for us to start implementing, to make sure that MINURSO start to do what they were created for. That is to supervise the referendum that needs to take place for the people of Western Sahara to get free. Again, when we talk about freedom and liberation, we should not forget the people of Palestine. It is another area that Namibia and Algeria agree on, that people of Western Sahara and the people of Palestine should be supported in their fight for freedom.
Namibia has been very clear on that position of Western Sahara as well, and of the support that Algeria has been providing, of course, despite some other political tensions in the region, is also commendable. But one of the criticism, of course, has been that for African countries, particularly whether it's under the EU, the AU, whether it's under SADC, every now and then we find it a little bit difficult to stand together on issues of common interest, particularly when there's interference from the global north. How can we foster those relations, not only on a bilateral platform, but also on a multilateral platform as well?
It's difficult to bring everybody to the table when the interests are not the same. We used to have a common position as countries members of SADC, and especially on the issue of Western Sahara. 2 years ago, I think, SADC hosted a solidarity seminar for Western Sahara in Pretoria, South Africa. And we were almost aligned in our position in support of Western Sahara. Today, we have countries members of SADC opening up the so-called consulates in the occupied territories of Western Sahara, in Laayoune and in Dakhla. It's very sad to see member states of SADC getting that way. But what we wish for is that the continent gets together and liberate the last colony on the continent.
Of course, if you just join us here watching Diplomatic Communique, we're speaking to Dr. Panduleni-Kaino Shingenge, ambassador to Algeria, so reflecting on the relations between the two countries. When we come back, we continue and look a little bit more onto our economic and trade relations. Stay with us. Tonight, We are joined by Namibia's High Commissioner to Algeria, Dr. Panduleni-Kaino Shingenge, as we reflect on those deep historical ties with the country or the Republic of Algeria. Doctor, we reflected a little bit on, of course, the political side of things, just taking a look at the foundational relationship between the two countries. But we have signed over 7 joint cooperation agreement. We want to just reflect a little bit on the economic and trade between the two countries. How deep are our economic ties with Algeria?
We are doing very well when it comes to political ties and relationship. We wish what we have on the political side could also be translated into economic cooperation. But we are laying the ground for economic cooperation. There are possibilities on either side. You see, Algeria has been in the business of gas and oil production in a long time. And Namibia, we are just at the beginning of discovering oil. Talking to the Algerian senior officials, they are willing. They are willing to help Namibia navigate this issue of negotiations. What do we do? How do we do this? When do we do that? And this is a great opportunity for Namibia, at least to consult and be advised by a friend, because our relations goes back a long time ago. We know each other. Again, Algeria has potentials that Namibia can tap into as far as the field of agriculture is concerned. 4 years ago, Algeria imported a lot of fruits and vegetables. Today, they are self-sufficient. They have started to grow vegetables and fruits in the desert. And that's something that we can learn from Algeria. They have been working towards self-sufficiency. And one can say that they are almost there, maybe 85% self-sufficient.
That's very, very impressive in terms of the statistics that you're bringing up. But what could have been some of the lessons that, or the best practices that we can learn from there? Is it a financing issue? Is it innovation and technology? What have they been able to really lean on as a country to be able to increase their production to 85% self-sufficiency? That's very, very impressive.
Innovation and technology is an area that Algeria holds in high regard. When students finish college, they are encouraged to come up with projects, and they get funding from the state. Last year, December already, the Minister of Knowledge Economy and Innovation hosted a summit for African ministers for innovation, technology, and ICT. Our Minister of ICT did attend. And the idea is to have innovation elevated at another level, not just in one country, but on the continent. They have also programs that invite young tech people to come to Algeria to learn on how to go about it, so that when they come back home, they teach the others.
So these are some of the benefits that Namibians can tap into as part of the Joint Commission at the moment.
Yes, yes. And one other field that we can tap into Algeria is food production, but also processing. Today, most of the imports that came from outside, whether you talk about your ketchup, your yogurt, your butter, your whatever, it's made home.
So it's not just primary production that they've increased, they've also moved on to the secondary stage of adding value to these products.
Yes, juices, everything is made home. And there is now a list of items that are banned from being imported into Algeria because what is produced back home is enough for the country.
But when we try to implement some of these, then we are accused of being protectionist and closing off the market, etc. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to balance and to say, listen, we can produce this, so we'll close the market so the locals are able to benefit from them. How assertive should we be as Namibians when we are moving towards those steps, particularly in the area of value addition, like you're mentioning, in agricultural products?
It's difficult and not okay to continuously import goods while your own people have produced products that are going to waste. What is the benefit of having the local people produce tomatoes and then at the end of the day, the tomatoes go to waste while we are importing from outside? But I wanted to add another area that is very important for us Namibians and that we can learn from Algeria, is the area of pharmaceuticals. Today in Algeria, 90% of medicine is produced locally. And they are willing. They are willing to help other nations on the continent to be able to produce our own medication.
One of the challenges that we've seen, particularly also in that space, of course, the advent of COVID really exposed a lot of countries. We understand we had some difficulties bringing in certain medicine. The negotiations had to be quite hard. But one of the challenges that we're seeing is even if there are countries that produce these goods on the continent, we're still sitting with issues around tariffs, around duties, the difficulty of goods moving from one African country to the other. AFCFTA was supposed to make that a little bit easier for us, but how do you see some of these instruments really facilitating and making it easier for us to even trade amongst African countries while we are still looking forward to becoming producers ourselves?
Let's talk about transportation. In the past 2-3 months, Algeria has made a bold move to open up routes, new routes. When I came here, I came by Air Algeria to Johannesburg. They started in September. So there's Algiers, Joburg open. There is Algiers, Addis Ababa. They are opening Algiers, Luanda, Brazzaville, Cameroon, Senegal is open. Then they are going beyond, even New York, Caracas, Havana. So this is a way of ensuring that transportation within the continent is optimal. No longer have to go to Paris for you to come back. We used to go to Doha and come back to Africa, or go to Frankfurt and come back to Algiers. That's now a thing of the past.
So it's just a matter of time before we have that convergence and free movement of people and goods across the country.
Yes.
If we're just joining us, you're watching Diplomatic Communique. We are speaking to our ambassador to Algeria on the program that focuses on our foreign missions. When we come back, we'll look at, of course, what are some of the benefits for Namibians if they are, of course, finding themselves in Algeria, and what kind of assistance can you get from our consulate offices. Stay with us. Welcome back to Diplomatic Communique, where we sit down with the heads of mission of our diplomatic missions across the world. And today we are speaking to Namibia's High Commissioner to Algeria, Dr. Panduleni-Kaino Shingenge. Well, Doctor, we reflected, of course, on the political relations between the two countries. We reflected a bit on the trade and how we can deepen economic ties as well. But let's look a bit on, what does the office offer for ordinary Namibians in Algeria, or that might be finding themselves there, or that would want to travel to Algeria?
We pride ourselves, the Mirko family, that our priority while outside is to look after our nationals. So whenever a Namibian wishes to travel to the area under the jurisdiction of our mission, which is Algeria, Tunisia, Western Sahara, Libya, Mauritania, you can call on us. You can call on us to ask about business, how to conduct business in Algeria. We will be able to help you. If you are traveling, we will be able to give you advice and tips. When you arrive on the ground, we will welcome you warm-heartedly. And for your meetings in the country, we will be able to facilitate translation for you if you need it. But let me hasten here and say, we should not be afraid to travel to North Africa, especially Algeria.
And that's really what I wanted to touch on because of the countries that you cover and, of course, political tensions between those. Yeah.
The language is not a problem, and it's not going to be a problem for a very long time. Algeria has now decided that even at university, they'll start teaching in English. So our students, when they come there, they will find that it's easier for them to study in English instead of French.
Okay, no, that's fantastic to hear. I think, particularly when we think about North Africa, of course, you think about the language barrier first, and some of the political tensions that might be taking place in that space as well. In terms of visiting delegations, we know, of course, sometimes you might set up a business delegation, etc. And we know there's a lot of smaller organizations that have started here that, besides the Chamber of Industry, for example, that like to organize delegations to head out there. Can you also get support from the embassy if you're setting up sort of a group visit, or you want to have interactions with certain business titans in Algeria?
We can help as far as contacts are concerned, but we do not have funds to spend. We cannot give you transport to take you from Algiers to go to Oran, for example. But we can help you with making contacts and making sure that your meetings are set up and you meet the right people.
And you meet the right people, of course, due diligence also being done in that process as well.
Yes.
Of course, part of this cooperation doesn't only include speaking about ourselves as Namibia. We know that Algeria's Independence Day is coming up on the 1st of November. Can you reflect on that a little bit?
Algeria's independence is coming up on the 1st of November, and I wish to extend congratulations to the nation of Algeria. However, His Excellency President Abdelmajid Tebboune has toned down the celebrations in Algeria, given what is going on in Palestine. So there will be not huge celebrations as we are used to, because we need to reflect and give solidarity to the people of Palestine.
No, that much is true. In terms of the support, I think there's quite a lot of pressure on countries such as Algeria. Of course, we don't want to reflect too much on domestic politics and perhaps the relations with Palestine, but the region itself, North Africa, share specific relations, I think, with the Arab world, etc., in terms of ethnicity and so forth. How difficult is it for them to navigate, particularly looking at, that any position or voting that takes place at UN really speaks about the position that some of these countries have taken? How difficult do you think is it for them to navigate being African, having that Arabic ethnicity, and still dealing with some of the challenges that are being faced in the Middle East?
Algeria is a giant in North Africa. And Algeria's position on many issues internationally are based on principles. And Algeria has been very active in the region to ensure that peace and stability is obtained. They are heavily involved in Mali, with the peace process in Mali. They are now getting involved in finding a peaceful solution to the situation in Niger. The president has come up with a 10-point solution that Namibia wholeheartedly welcome. And Algeria, as we know, and we said earlier, is involved in the situation of Western Sahara. By the way, many people may not know this, but those refugee camps that the people of Western Sahara live in, they are on the Algerian territory. Yes, the Tindouf camps, they are on the Algerian territory. And Algeria does not just give them a once-off assistance. They give them assistance in every field possible. They give them, they help them with the food, medicine, they help the students to study in Algeria, and of course, security for them.
Doctor, thank you very much for making time out to join us. It's not always that we have you here back at home, but we appreciate you making time to speak to us on Diplomatic Communique.
Thank you. It was good to be here.
Well, that's today's edition of Diplomatic Communique as it reflected with our ambassador to Algeria, Dr. Panduleni-Kaino Shingenge, reflecting, of course, on our deep political and economic ties, saying that there is potential for cooperation in agriculture and ICT when it comes to Algeria and, of course, manufacturing going forward in pharmaceuticals. On that note, I'm Ricardo Tlagosep. Until next time, this has been another edition of Diplomatic Communique.